All right, Grayson, Jack, thanks for joining us on the Diving in Deep podcast. I first want you guys to break down how you were paired as synchro partners.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. It was kind of spur of the moment. It was right before Olympic trials last year, and just wanted to compete synchro. And I knew that Grayson was coming back because I think he may have let me know a little early before he publicly announced it. And I immediately knew that I wanted to do synchro with Grayson. He definitely like when I was a diver in high school and watching the NCAA's. I even got to go to the NCAA's that they hosted in Austin when I was I think a sophomore in high school. And so I got to see Grayson compete there as well as like all the other big names at the time. It was really cool. Like the first time doing synchro with him, knowing that I get to do synchro with someone that I've kind of looked up to a little, in the past and like gotten to see dive. And it's cool that now, now we're partners and we're going at it together.
Little starstruck.
Absolutely.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Grayson, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel awesome. It truly does. And it's funny hearing that perspective because when I made the decision to come back to diving in 2023, one of those deciding factors was synchro, with the emphasis that USA Diving is putting on synchro diving. The success that we've had as a country in synchro diving events, I knew that that would be, one of the events that I really wanted to compete in. So when I was making my decision to come back, I was watching the Spring Nationals in West Virginia, kind of seeing who was competing and who might be an ideal synchro partner. And in the early conversations I had with my coach, Jack was like the first name that both of us had thought about after watching that event and watching him compete in those few years. After I had taken a little time off, we both knew that he was going to be the perfect partner. So it's kind of cool hearing that side of things when he was the one that I was really gunning for when I made the decision to come back.
I love that. So Jack was starstruck and Grayson was scouting you, Jack.
A little bit, it sounds like.
Yeah, did you know that?
Not really. I, uh, I mean, in retrospect, it's kind of silly or maybe stupid for me not to know that just because the way that we dive matches up so well. I don't know how I could have missed that. Like the hurdles are the same, our positions are the same. We have like similar spin rates for all of our dives. The first couple times we ever practiced together, like my hurdle matched up with Grayson's without making too many changes, and we didn't have to make a whole lot of timing differences on like takeoffs or anything like that. I mean, it's just really like it came together pretty quickly and pretty easily, which I think is the sign of like finding a good pairing. Um, just that it was all like very minor changes, even after just like 1 or 2 days of doing it. It was. I mean, I should have known that that Grayson was going to be a great synchro partner for me.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because it's not always so seamless.
Yeah, definitely not. I've done synchro in the past where uh, you have to do or mix synchro, for example. You have to decide if two people are doing different hurdles, like which hurdle you're going with, or if someone's tightening the board up. That's like the extreme case. But even in like regular synchro, like if one person does a two-step hop versus a one-step hop, like someone's got to make the decision to change to just get it matched up, or as we saw with the Mexican team in the last Olympics, you can do two different hurdles, but that really makes the timing important. Whoever's behind in that hurdle has to really make sure that they match up perfectly on the end, because the guy in front obviously can't do anything because the other guy's behind him. He can't see him. So, those. I'm glad that Grace and I never had to do any of that sort of tweaking. We just kind of said, "All right, let's do the first dry jump," and it was like, "All right, that was pretty good."
Grayson, do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been seamless. And I think that's what was reassuring when we first tried it. Um, As you put it, I was scouting him for a little while, and there was the concept that, when I watch him dive individually, there were things that look like they could sync up well. But until you get together and really try timing things up for the first time, you're really not 100% certain that it's going to work out. And honestly, after a jump or two, we were like, whoa, are you changing a lot, or are you just kind of doing your thing? And neither of us have had to change too much. And it just naturally times up, which is awesome. It makes it a little bit easier and a lot less stressful diving synchro when you know that you can go out and focus on your own dive and that the timing will take care of itself.
Exactly. And as you guys know, synchro, it's together, but you also have to nail your individual dive as well.
Yeah,
So I want you both to take us through your meet routine, what you guys do individually and what you do together that just comes together so nicely in competition.
Kind of meet at the boards a little. We don't, we're not like side by side, you know, moving as a pair. I think, I go do a routine with Pat, which is it stays the same regardless of whether I'm doing individual or synchronized. And get some like things I need to think about. Whether that be like a timing thing for synchro or an individual adjustment, just for the dive. And then we both get in that good focused headspace and just kind of once we're behind the ladder together or up on the standing next to the boards together, that's when it's okay, now we're really bringing it together and we're going to do this as a team.
definitely. I'm with Jack on that. Like I keep my individual routine that I do in my own events when we're not competing synchro. And just kind of finding that sense of normalcy that you're used to doing that routine in place. Because as you mentioned, it really is going out and executing your own individual dive at the same time as someone else. So kind of trusting and knowing that we can kind of get into our own headspace and knowing that when we step up on those boards together, everything's going to come together. It's kind of nice. We do end up sitting kind of near each other and we'll look at each other throughout the event and kind of communicate without communicating as far as, hey, we need to drill this next one, or that was a pretty sweet dive there. That synchro felt really good. But yeah, we're not modeling our dives together in between or anything along those lines. We're really just focused on going out there doing the best individual dive we can as well.
Speaking of things coming together, you guys both qualified for the world team. What does it mean to you as individuals and as a synchro team?
I just can't be more excited. It's World Championships are always a blast. Grayson and I now we're going to the second one in a row where both of us have made the team. But the first time that we're going for synchro. Um, Grayson, I'm not sure if even this is my first time ever making the World Championships in an Olympic event. So very excited to be doing it with you. But yeah, no, I've made it before on 1 meter and for mixed synchro. But I feel like this team as well as the quality of my individual dives as well. And of course alongside with Grayson, we have I'm feeling really excited and I think we're going to do some great stuff.
Absolutely. No, I share the same energy. Looking forward to Worlds. I think it's going to be a great competition. First time competing synchro at a big
Mhm.
international competition like this. So it'll be that first experience for both of us. And I think having this experience early on in the Olympic quad, so first year since the last Olympics, as we can kind of build this international experience over the next few years, is crucial. And it was a goal of ours from the beginning of the year. I think at the conclusion of Olympic trials last year, that synchro event was highly competitive and a really fun event to be a part of. And Jack and I came extremely close to qualifying for the Paris team in our first time competing together. And we communicated right after the event, and I definitely held on to it for a while that these next few years could be ours. We could be that synchro team going out and representing the US. So Singapore was one of our biggest goals coming into this season to go out and execute at nationals and have this opportunity is awesome.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about LA and how you guys want revenge and you want to push for Los Angeles. Take us through what you guys are doing to prepare every single day for the LA Games.
I think I'm gonna try to focus down a little bit more. There's a lot of time. There's still 3 years left until the games, or I guess maybe 2.5 now. Um, and that's time that I can spend definitely like making really, really fine adjustments and getting consistency and building those skills into muscle memory, rather than trying to rely on the adrenaline of the meet, or some increased pressure of the environment, being there, to focus down. I want to try to keep that focus through the next 2.5, 3 years of training, and just consistency. I think continuing to train at the same level that we have been, and then also I graduate in about a month, and so after that, hopefully spending more time doing just synchronized training. So either going to Grayson in LA or Grayson coming up here, and really like trying to get we're a team, we train together. We're getting ready together.
Definitely. And I'm focused on a lot of those things that Jack mentioned. Having taken some time off of diving and coming back, and starting to get up there in age for a diver. So some of my big areas of focus are more on the recovery and injury prevention side of things, because to take advantage of the training and the time that we have these next few years, I've got to make sure that I'm available and actually able to go out there and train on a daily basis. So I found my shift since coming back to diving being a little bit more focused on rehab, introducing new exercises, taking the time to make sure that I'm putting time and effort and making sure my body's recovering on a daily basis, and just so that I can feel better and get the most out of my training. And then, one of the other things that was a big part of my decision in coming back was I moved out to LA from Austin, Texas,
Mhm.
or the LA area. We're down in Orange County. But because the Olympics are going to be hosted outside, we found it really important to train outside. And that's something that I think Jack and I both have going for us right now, as we're diving outside every day. Even when we travel to each other to train synchro, we're training synchro outdoors, and that's great preparation, to prepare for an outdoor Olympic meet. Just to make sure that we're used to the elements and competing in those environments.
I love that you mentioned that. How has training outside been for both of you?
Well, I used to be the palest kid on the pool deck, and now I'm no longer. So I would say pretty good. Um, but apart from that, I think it gives a good perspective on spotting ability as well.
Mhm.
Totally variable conditions when you're training outside. You can't account for the amount of sunlight on a certain day. You can't account for if there's going to be wind or cloudy, or any sort of weather conditions. So when you show up, or when I show up to practice, the weather that day is what I'm diving under.
Mhm.
And so if I'm doing a big dive that requires a lot of spotting and a lot of accuracy, I've got to be able to make sure I can execute it under those conditions, regardless of what those conditions are. And I think training outside every day definitely gives an advantage, rather than training inside every day, especially when you're trying to make the transition to outside. I think the transition from outdoor to indoor is way, way easier than going from indoor to outdoor.
Agreed,
Absolutely,
Grayson.
I agree. I agree with all of that. I love training outside.
Mhm.
There's an added challenge to every day. There's more elements involved than training indoors. An indoor environment's predictable. The
Mhm.
temperature pretty much fluctuates around the same temperature every day. The pool temp stays pretty consistent. But training outside throughout the different seasons, the winter can get a little chilly. Sometimes we deal with rain. Both of
Mhm.
us deal with wind from time to time. And those aren't conditions you're typically used to training under. But when you adapt to that and you get used to that, I feel that it just prepares you more as an athlete for some of those situations that you can't predict in competition. If you're a little off on your hurdle, you're used to getting funky hurdles here and there when diving in the elements. And you're just a more seasoned, more well-rounded athlete, because you've got different factors you're dealing with on a daily basis. And then the suntan, as Jack mentioned, is a nice bonus on top of that.
It's a nice touch, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jack, I want to go back to you because you're graduating in a month. What are your, I guess, your other plans aside from training with Grayson, on the pool side. Any other life changes happening or things that you'll be doing aside from diving?
Yeah, so I should preface I'm graduating from my undergrad, but I did get accepted into a master's program also at Stanford. So I'm still going to be living here and training here pretty much full time around the year. And I'm I'm using it not only because I really do enjoy the subject matter that I'm taking a master's in computer science, but
Mhm.
I'm really excited to just continue training with Pat, who I love as a coach, and using the amazing facility we have here. I think is going to be really, really awesome. Outside of that, after next year ends and I graduate my master's program, I really don't know what that last stretch is going to be. I know that I want to go all in for LA and really give it everything I've got. But the logistics side of that, I really am lost. So
You're a Stanford Cardinal through and through, and the focus fully on LA. That is totally awesome. So I like that mentality. So when you guys aren't diving and training, what is your favorite thing to do?
I go first on this one. This year I've been reading a ton. So I like to play golf, but I found that golf and diving for me don't mix very well. I've got some back issues that I struggle with. So kind of changing up the different stimuli and the
Mhm.
torque that they have on the body isn't a good recipe for me. So when I'm not training and then in the off season, I play a lot of golf. When I'm diving, I love to kind of dive into a good book and read. I made it a goal of mine this year to try to read about 50 books. And due to competition and some travel in here and there, I've fallen off of pace. I find that between events is not a great time for me to read. I have a hard time focusing on the book that I'm currently enjoying at the moment. But yeah, so those are my two big things that I like to do outside of the pool.
So Grayson, for divers watching, golf is not a good cross trainer for diving, right? Okay.
It could be. It's just if you have pre-existing back problems,
Yeah.
then it can
No.
cause that to flare up a little bit here and there.
I would think that the mental game is weirdly similar.
Yeah.
You're
Is.
doing the same thing over and over again. Sounds
The
familiar.
sports, yeah, the sports themselves are so similar, highly technical.
Yeah.
The changes that you're making are so minute, but
Hmm.
have such a huge impact on the outcome.
Yeah.
And they're highly individual and highly mental. So, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Any good book recommendations?
I'm reading Strangers in Time by David Baldacci right now, and I'm really enjoying that one. So I really like that. And then, from just a diving perspective, I think the talent code, my coach gave that to me when I was a little bit younger, just learning about how top performers consistently perform across different disciplines and different hotbeds around the world. Kind of goes
Hmm.
into training and mindset when it comes to training and some of the similarities that you find or across a bunch of different disciplines and different sports. That's a really good one.
Awesome. Jack, your favorite thing to do when you're not diving or studying?
Well, that's right. I was going to say studying, but that's not my favorite. Uh, I've been playing pickleball a lot recently, much to the chagrin of my coach. He's always worried I'm going to twist an ankle. Um, but I enjoy it's high intensity. It's kind of that burst, quick explosive movement because the court's not that big. Um, and it's I've heard not that hard. I've played against some guys who play tennis and have lost handily to them, who and they've told me that this game is significantly easier. Um, but I've been enjoying it as a casual player.
That's awesome. Well, you guys are awesome, and thank you so much for joining us. It was a lot of fun.